shield in whom I trust. For surely he will save you from the foulest snare, and from the deadly pestilence as well. He will cover over you with his feathers, and there under his wings you will find peace, and his faithfulness will be your shield. Fear the terror of the nighttime, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, nor the plague that destroys at midday. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 may fall at your right hand, but it will not come near you. You will only see, you will only observe when judgment comes. For he commands his angels concerning you to guard you wherever you may go, to be with you and lift you in their hands, so that you won't strike your foot against a stone. Well, if you make the Most High your dwelling, even the Lord who is my refuge, and surely no great harm will befall you, no disaster will come there near your home. For he commands his angels concerning you to guard you wherever you may go, to be with you and lift you in their hands, so that you won't strike your foot against a stone. You will tread upon the lion and the cobra.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. We're certainly not sure whether we're violating copyright laws or not, so we're going to go ahead and turn it off here and get started. But thank you, Sons of Korah. In case we violated copyright, we're sorry. We'll try not to do that anymore. Yeah, all right. Well, then let's go ahead and get started. But today is the 25th of the first month, actually. It's 1/25/2025, and let us just begin by, get this out of the way here. Let's begin by remembering why it is that we are meeting here, why we're meeting on the Shabbat, and just spending our time here. Well, number one, we want to grow in our belief, building up our knowledge and understanding, and to learn to walk in his ways. We want to remember that we're the redeemed, we're the chosen, and we're the saved, and that came at a great price. The world is under judgment and will be destroyed, but not us, not us. We have joined the covenant people of Yahweh and Yahuwah and are now participants in their covenants and their promises. Thank you, Yahuwah. Our responsibility as believers is to believe Yahweh and Yahushua, because without belief it's impossible to please him. For he who comes to Elohim has to believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who earnestly seek him, according to Hebrews 11:6. And belief requires obedience, so we are seeking to become obedient believers. The promises that we are sharing are that of eternal life through resurrection. So the promises made to Israel and that we are participating in, and that we will be called back into the land. And we understand that today to be the New Jerusalem. Yahushua promised that he was going away to build mansions for us, and that's the promised land. That is the land we share with Israel. We have the promise of a benevolent ruler, the Mashiach, who is our sovereign, but also our Savior, and our Kohen HaKadosh, which is our high priest. And through his work, and as believers, and through the promises, we will have a relationship unlike what we experience today with Elohim, where we are his people, and he is our Elohim. We will be operating in a new covenant where we're just able to do his will and to be his people and to really function as Adam once did, as the people of Elohim. And as Paul says in his writings to the Corinthians, chapter 8, verse 3, if anyone loves Elohim, this one is known by him. Thank you. Amen. Amen. And let's go ahead and get started with the prayer that Yahuwah taught us. We'll read it together here. I'll try to read it slower today. Yahuwah, Father in heaven, sanctified and kodesh be your name. May your kingdom come and your will be done on earth as it is in the Shemayim. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our wrongs as we forgive those who have wronged us. And do not lead us into trials or temptations, but deliver us from wickedness and evil. For yours is the kingdom, the power, and the kabod. Amen. Okay. And so we tend to get started with the old writings here because that's what we're doing. We're trying to share scriptures and read scriptures. So let me. And we're
at 12.
Genesis 12. Let me get there real quick. Let me get this down. Get this out of the way if I can.
There he is.
Open.
Let's wait, Tom.
Okay, there we go. And Haley coming in. So we'll just wait a second here. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording for just a minute. Okay, so welcome to Haley and Joe. And we were just getting ready to get started on Genesis chapter 12. While they're getting set up, we'll let you go ahead and start reading. Okay.
And Yahuwah said to Abram, go yourself out of your land and from your relatives. His father just died. Terah had just died in Haran.
Yeah.
Go out from your father's house to a land.
Okay. You're right. Okay.
Which I will show you.
Okay.
And I shall make of you a great nation and barak you. Make your name great, and you shall be a barakah, a blessing. And I shall barak those or bless those who barak you, and curse him who curses you. And in you all the clans of the earth shall be Baruch, shall be blessed.
Baruch.
So Abram left, as Yahuwah had commanded him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. And Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their possessions that they had gathered, and the beings whom they'd acquired in Haran. And they departed for a land of Canaan, and they came to the land of Canaan. And Abram passed through the land to the place of Shechem, as far as the terebinth tree of Morah. At that time, the Canaanites were in the land. And Yahuwah appeared to Abram and said, to your seed I give this land. And he built there an altar to Yahuwah, who had appeared to him. And from there he moved to the mountain east of Bethel. And he pitched his tent with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. And he built there an altar to Yahuwah and called on the name of Yahuwah. And Abram departed, continuing toward the Negev. And a scarcity of food came to be in the land, and Abram went down to Mitzrayim Egypt, to dwell there, for the scarcity of food was severe in the land. And it came to be, when he was close to entering Mitzrayim, that he said to Sarai his wife, "See, I know that you are a lovely woman to look at. And it shall be, when the Mitzrites see you, when the Egyptians see you, that they shall say, 'This is his wife,' and they shall kill me, but let you live. Please say you are my sister, so that it will be well with me for your sake, and my life be spared because of you." And it came to be, when Abram came to Mitzrayim, that the Mizrites saw the woman, and that she was lovely, very lovely. And Pharaoh's officials saw her and praised her before Pharaoh, and the woman was taken to Pharaoh's house. He treated Abram well for her sake, and he had sheep and cattle, and male donkeys, and male and female servants, and female donkeys and camels. But Yahweh plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, "What is this you've done to me? Why did you not inform me that she was your wife? Why did you say she is my sister? And so I was going to take her from my wife. Look, here is your wife. Take her and go." And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away with his wife and all that he had. Abram was scared.
Well, one of the things that stood out just as we got started is he was 75 when he left Haran. So by the time the promises, the time in the land, first of all, even when he got to Canaan, he wasn't there very long before he's heading off down to Mitzrayim.
He's 75.
Yeah. But even after he got into Canaan and was given the promise, which is the first of the covenants Yahweh is making with him, or at least to my knowledge. But he's already heading down to Mitzrayim. So he didn't spend much time in Canaan before Yahweh is making promises. And then when he comes back from Mitzrayim. So there isn't a ton of time that he's in Canaan before the promises are made about the land and about the seeds that follow. He was already an old man, is what I'm saying, by the time he ever went into Canaan
right
in the first place.
One of the things I just noticed right here is when we're looking at what King David would do when he was the commander, it would say he inquired, and David inquired of Yahweh. He inquired of the Lord. He inquired of Yahweh. He asked, "What do I do?" And it's always a reminder to myself. I probably would have done that too. I'd have gone to Egypt, to Mitzrayim, where the food was, without just saying, "Hey, should I stay here? Should I go?" And it may be fine that he went. It's just, I just noticed the lack of inquiry. That's all.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. And I think most people don't really know what to do with this whole concept that he's basically offering up his wife. And I tell him, "Now I'm going to be in trouble because you're so pretty. And so tell him you're my sister." Well, what does that mean? That means what is Pharaoh? In fact, Pharaoh
He's free game then.
Intent. And thankfully, just like Yahweh saved Yishak or Isaac from being sacrificed with the ram in the thicket, he saves Abram and Sarai from the Pharaoh taking him, and then later we see a similar event. But I don't really know that any of us really know what to do with what Abram did there.
He saves us in spite of ourselves.
Right. You got any observances there, Joe?
Nothing new.
Okay. Well, I'll spend just a moment then in chapter 7, because this is the first of the promises, and you'll see Paul teaching about these covenants that were made. This is the first of the promises that when Yahweh had told Abram to get up and go to the land of Canaan, and when he got there, he basically just promised him, "To you and to your seed I give this land." Later, we're going to learn that it is the land that was given to Yisrael when they came out of Mitzrayim. But you'll also see when we read in Hebrews and other things that that area, well, it did have fulfillment because the Israelites came there and occupied that land, but it still has a future fulfillment, because that is the area where the new Jerusalem will be coming down. The promise. When we get into Deuteronomy, we see that we know that the Israelites are going to fail, and then they're going to be dispersed into the world, but they're going to be regathered. And where they're regathered back to is going to be the same land again. And only this time it will be different. It will be with the new Jerusalem having come down.
What chapter 7 were you referring to?
Chapter 7, verse 7. If I said
Oh, okay.
7, I meant verse 7. Verse 7, and Yahweh appeared to Abram and said, to your seed, I give this land. And he built there an altar. We're going to see, we're going to get into a few more covenants as we move forward here, but that's the first of, and you'll hear these are references as we've been studying and working through some of Paul's writings.
Romans and Galatians.
Galatians, yep. Yeah, it's going to refer back to these and what they mean and what it means to be walking in belief and what belief means. So, anybody else have anything?
No.
Okay. Chapter 3.
Oh, I did. Okay, one real quick thing.
All right.
This is just, so Yahweh told Abram, go yourself out of your land, from your relatives, and from your father's house to a land which I'll show you. And then he took Lot. I just always wonder, it doesn't seem like he was supposed to take Lot, but that's just.
Does it say Lot right there? Did it say it right in front of me?
It says it in verse 4.
Oh, there it is. Okay, verse 4, yeah.
So.
Well, did he take Lot or did Lot just go along with him?
Actually, and Lot went with him.
Along and just kind of followed him.
No, I think if I were Lot, that would have been what I would have done too. I'd have followed the man of Yahweh.
The man who has all the camels and the
Yeah.
and the pretty wife.
Okay, that's it for me.
Joe, you want to do 13 in here?
And Abram went up from Mitzrayim into the Negev, he and his wife and all that he had, and Lot with him. And Abram was very rich in livestock, in silver and in gold. And he went on his journey from Negev as far as Bethel, to the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Ai, to the place of the altar which he had made there at first. And there Abram called on the name of Yahweh. Now Lot, who went with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents, and the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together, for their possessions were great, so that they could not dwell together. And there was strife between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. And at that time the Canaanites and the Perizzites dwelt in the land. Then Abram said to Lot, please let there be no strife between you and me, and between my herdsmen and your herdsmen, for we are brothers. Is not all the land before you? Please separate from me. If you take the left, then I go to the right, or if you go to the right, then I go to the left. And Lot lifted his eyes and saw all the plain of the Jordan, and that it was well watered everywhere, before Yahweh destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, like the garden of Yahweh, like the land of Mitzrayim, as you go towards Zoar. So Lot chose for himself all the plain of the Jordan, and Lot moved east. Thus they separated from each other, Abram dwelling in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelling in the cities of the plain, in pitched descent as far as Sodom. But the men of Sodom were evil and sinned before Yahweh exceedingly so. And after Lot had separated from him, Yahweh said to Abram, now lift up your eyes and look from the place where you are, northward and southward and eastward and westward. For all the land which you see I shall give to you and your seed forever. I shall make your seed as the dust of the earth, so that if a man could count the dust of the earth, then your seed also would be counted. Arise, walk in the land through its length and its width, for I gave it to you. So Abram moved his tent and went and dwelt by the terebinth trees of Mamre, which are in Hebron, and built an altar there to Yahweh.
One of the things that really stands out to me, and I've heard it expounded upon from a teacher, that Lot had a lot of cattle and camels, and he had lots of livestock as well, just like Abram did. And then because he had so much livestock and the herdsmen weren't getting along, instead of reducing his herd to stay with Abram, the man of God, the man of Yahweh, he said, okay, yeah, let's separate and I'll keep all my stuff and
And I'll
take this rich
better up
land.
too.
And as we see, not too long and know about Lot's descendants, it was all darkness and all curse. And it would have been far better for him and his descendants if he would have stopped the strife between his herdsmen, if he would have shut him down, leave Abraham's men alone. I'll get rid of some livestock. We'll make it a little bit better for grazing. I got to stay with Abram. That's the most important thing. Kind of like when Joshua, he wouldn't leave the tent. He hung around Moses. There are several references where Joshua just kept hanging around Moshe. And I that means a lot to me, just that, you need to do, if you need to reduce so you can stay with the man of Yahweh, that's the thing to do instead of keeping all your stuff and allowing the strife. And
Not only
so,
did he do that, he also, from what I can tell from reading, he chose a different land other than what Yahweh gave
oh, I didn't catch that
to
before.
Abram.
I did
He
know
didn't-
that this time
he
also
did
that
not.
Abram dwelt in the land of Canaan, which is what you're saying is the promised land.
Yeah.
And
So Lot
Lot
didn't
went off.
care for what Yahweh. If he didn't know, okay, but I have a hard time believing he did not know, because what else is there to talk about except for sheep and the stars? But I don't think Lot favored Yahweh, and that's why he was just separated from Abram, so he could grow in the land where it looked nice and he could have fun there, I guess.
Well, you would have thought that something on the inside would have made him feel funny when he looked that direction, because that was the direction of Sodom and Gomorrah.
But Yahweh still considered him a righteous man and saved him. So
Yeah.
what does that mean?
In my understanding, is that in relationship to Abram, he was Abram's family. And I was thinking I saw a reference about that, but it does say that he was bothered. He was tormented by what was happening in Sodom and Gomorrah. He did not like
I
it.
think it reads here.
And why didn't he move?
Yeah.
He probably
Why
would
didn't
have.
he just pack up
I
and go
know.
back to Abram? So it didn't torment him enough to move.
To separate himself. Good
If
point.
people really wanted to move, they'll move.
Yeah. And I think ultimately that land that was Sodom and Gomorrah, where, Sodom and Gomorrah, that were in the plains, they say in the plains, the cities of the plain. I think ultimately that was the land of Israel as well, when everything was said and done. And it is part of the whole promise. And I'll also just quickly say, you pointed out again that this is again the promise of the land to Abram. Lift up your eyes and look from where you are, northward, southward, eastward, and westward. As far as you can see, all this is yours. And this is also the first promise where he starts telling Abram that I'm going to make your seed or your descendants as the dust of the earth. So he begins to promise. This is the beginning of the promises of the covenant people, the chosen people, and the seed of Abram.
Just one last thing for me, but said he went and moved his tent and went and dwelt by the terebinth trees of Mamre, which are in Hebron. Abram the Hebrew from Hebron. That's what, Hebrew from Hebron. I believe that's where the name Hebrew came from, is Hebron.
There is some teaching, and I don't know for sure, but there's also some teaching that Hebrew. Also, there's somebody in the lineage whose name was like that, and
Was Hebrew
and then it became. I mean, it's so Hebrews were of that family line.
So maybe Hebrew preceded the Hebron.
I think so.
okay.
I think Hebrew is related to family lineage. I do not know this. I've just heard teaching on it. Doesn't mean that we know or they know. It could be Hebron, but it could also be related to the family lineage. And I can't remember what the name was. Hebrew, something like that. That it's possible that Hebrew came from.
Okay. Do you want to read the next chapter, Joe? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it came to be in the days of Amraphel, sovereign of Shinar, Arioch, sovereign of the Eleazar, Kedorlaomer,
Kedorlaomer, I think I heard it pronounced. Kedorlaomer.
We'll just call him K-Man.
sovereign of Elam, and Tidal, sovereign of Golan, that they fought against Beras, sovereign of Sedom.
Oh, you know what? I recognize what this is
The five
five
kings.
armies. Yeah, the five kings. Right. Okay. I guess it is important that we. So Amraphel, sovereign of Shinar, which is. I'm sorry, Joe. That's
Or
Nimrod.
Babylon.
I think that's Nimrod.
Oh, Amraphel, you're right.
Sovereign of Shinar came with the rest of these other four sovereigns. Okay. So go ahead, Joe.
Like up until about verse 10, we're not going to know anything because there's so many different names, so many words we don't
You
know.
want me to let me
Yeah.
go ahead and
Yeah.
read it. I won't do any better, but I'll go ahead and try. Let's start at the beginning in verse 1. And it came to be in the days of Amraphel, sovereign of Shinar, and Arioch, sovereign of Elasar, Kedorlaomer, sovereign of Edom, Tidal, sovereign of Goyim, that they fought against Bera, sovereign of Sedom, Bersha, sovereign of Amorah, Shinab, sovereign of Admah, Shemeber, sovereign of Seboyam, and the sovereign of Bela, that is Zoar. All these joined together in the valley of Siddim, that is the Salt Sea. 12 years they served Kedorlaomer. In the 13th year they rebelled. And in the 14th year, Kedorlaomer, are you saying, how did you do it?
Kedorlaomer.
Kedorlaomer and the sovereigns that were with him came and smote Rephaim in Ashtaroth, Karnaim, and the Zuzim in Ham, and the Emites in Shaweh, Kiriathaim,
Yeah.
and the Horites in the mountain of Seir as far as El Paran, which is by the wilderness. And they turned back and came to Ayin Mishpat, that is Kadesh, and smote all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites, who dwelt in Hatzetzen Tamar. And the sovereign of Sidon, and the sovereign of Amorah, and the sovereign of Admah, and the sovereign of Seboyam, and the sovereign of Bela, that is Zoar, went out and joined together in battle in the valley of Siddim against Kedorlaomer, sovereign of Elam, and Tidal, sovereign of Goyim, and Amraphel, sovereign of Shinar, and Arioch, sovereign of Elasar, 4 sovereigns against 5. And the valley of Siddim had many tar pits, and the sovereigns of Siddim and Amorah fled and fell there, and the remainder fled to the mountains. And they took all the goods of Siddim and Amorah, and all their food, and went away. And they took Lot, Abram's brother, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and left. And one who had escaped came and informed Abram the Ebri, which is Hebrew, for he dwelt by the terebinth trees of Mamre in the Amorite, brother of Eshcol, and brother of Anor, and they had a covenant with Abram. And when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his 318 trained servants, who were born in his own house, and went in pursuit as far as Dan. And he and his servants divided against them by night, and smote them, and pursued them as far as Hobah, which is on the left of Damascus. So he brought back all the goods, and also brought back his brother Lot and his goods, as well as the women and the people. And after his return from the defeat of Kedorlaomer and the sovereigns who were with him, the sovereign of Siddim came out to meet him at the valley of Shawah, and that is the sovereign's valley. And Melchizedek, sovereign of Shalem, brought out bread and wine. Now he was the Kohen of the Most High El. Let's just take a moment here and back up. It's hard to read. It's really hard to read in the Hallelujah scriptures here. It's hard enough when we're reading some of the more modern translations. But just in summary, there are 5 kings that came out of the land of Assyria, Babylon, and those areas that came down to where Lot was, and really where Abram was supposed to be, came down into the areas of Sodom and Gomorrah, and basically attacked. 5 kings against 4 attacked and won, and took Lot and all the goods and all of the. They just ransacked all of that land and took things. And somebody escaped, and went down to where Abram was. And Abram with 300 people, his 318, I believe it was, went and fought against Nimrod.
Oh yeah.
Nimrod
You're
was
right.
considered a king amongst all of these kings, and he went with 300 people and defeated these 5 kings. They speak of it so glibly here in Genesis, but in other scriptures, I'm pretty confident they spell that out a little more what took place in that battle. But it's remarkable what took place, that Abram, we might have, and Genesis doesn't really give us a solid picture, but in Jubilees and a couple of other writings, you get the idea that Abram he's not a mealy man. He's not somebody to be tinkered with. Even though he did what he did with his wife, it wasn't, because he went down into Mitzrayim. It wasn't because he was a weak man or a man that would be, might be meek and that he has the power, but withholds it, but he's a solid man. So this whole thing that we just read was all about just these 5 kings coming down from the lands of Assyria and Babylon, attacking the areas here, taking people back, but Abraham going and catching up with them at night and conquering them in that moment and bringing everything back. And now he's coming back to the land of Sodom and Amorah, which is down around where Jerusalem is, where we're going to run into Melchizedek here. But now he's coming back as a hero in the people of the land that he just saved and brought people back to, are now wanting to honor him. So anyway, that's what we just read, even though it was very hard to follow. Anybody have questions about that?
No, I just think, well, and then with Abram, the 318 trained servants, they were all born in his house. He'd had them for a long time. They were organically grown, as it were. They were his people and loyal to him.
And were they trained for battle or just trained for other things? I mean, I don't know. It doesn't matter. 318 against 5 armies.
5 trained armies of 5 kings. I just think that's amazing.
It's spoken of in various circles. Okay. All right. So now he's coming back, and this is when he runs into Melchizedek. And so Sovereign fled and fell there, and remainder fled to the mountains and took. Okay, so ready? Okay. So after his return from the defeat of Kedorlaomer and the sovereigns who were with him, the sovereign of Sidon came out to meet him at the valley of Shawah, which is the sovereign's valley. That is the sovereign's valley. And Melchizedek, sovereign of Shalem, which is Jerusalem, brought out bread and wine. Now he was the Kohen, or the priest of the Most High El. So he was a priest of Yahuwah. And he baraked him and said, Baruch be Abram of the Most High El, possessor of the Shemayim and earth. And Baruch be the Most High El, who has delivered your enemies into your hand. And he gave him 1/10 of all. And he baraked him and said, Baruch be Abraham. Okay. Baruch be the Most High El. Okay. And the sovereign of Sodom said to Abram, give me the people and take the goods for yourselves. But Abram said to the sovereign of Sodom, I have lifted my hand to Yahuwah, the Most High El, the possessor of the Shemayim and earth, not to take a thread or a sandal strap or whatever is yours, lest you should say, I have made Abram rich, except only what the young men have eaten and the portion of men who went with me, Anar, Eshkol, and Mamre. Let them take their portion. Anybody? Just know that we return back to Melchizedek. We'll see references to Melchizedek in Hebrews and other scriptures. And I'll just say here, it's he's a mysterious figure in scripture. In Hebrews, we're going to hear that he had no beginning, no end, no how does that go? No lineage, basically. And if you get into the extra writings, you kind of hear that he's messenger, a priest of the messenger. So he was a priest of the messenger, or kind of like what Hanok was. So it's well beyond what we're talking about in Genesis, but
I was looking for a reference, but I can't find it.
okay. All right. I'm tired now. I'm trying to read that. Anybody want to read the next one?
Joe, what do you want me to?
So Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre, were they the other sovereigns?
Which one?
Three that he listed for them to take their own portion?
With me, Anar, Eshkol, and Memory. I really don't know for sure, except only what the young men have eaten and the portion of
Okay,
it
so
with me.
13.
So
From 13.
they grew up the Turin trees of Memory, the Amorite, brother of Eshkol. Yep. Okay, so
So they
these are the
may-
people that must have come with him because they had a covenant with Abram here. So I wonder if not just Abram and his family, but Memory and Eshkol and
those,
Anar came with
do you
him.
think those are just three men or three peoples?
I think it would probably be three men and their families, like, the peeps that they were the patriarchs of the head of that clan.
The Amorite. So yeah, it's singular. Okay.
And Amorites are actually of the Nephilim line.
Yeah.
After what Abram did to these sovereigns, who I'm sure had armies themselves. Yeah, makes sense. Are we reading 15?
Yeah, but where did it say 318? Because when you think about it, that's Abram had 318, but I wonder if we had Mamre, I really don't know, but we had Mamre and
Verse
Eshcol
14.
and Anar. And when Abraham he armed his 318 servants. So I wonder if it wasn't just his 318, but also we had some that belonged to Mamre,
Probably.
some
Probably
that
right.
belonged to Eshcol, and some that belonged to Aner, and they all went up. Maybe it was, I've always heard this story, and we've always heard it, that it was just a small band of people, like 318 people, but maybe it was a whole lot more.
But we're talking with kings and trained armies. We're not just talking, some guys and their clans. We're talking that
The other guys,
Yeah,
on the other side, the
five
five
kings.
kings.
and 5 armies.
Well, yes, but I'm also just saying we've always heard the 318,
Yeah, right.
but
I
I'm
get
not sure that there weren't more than 318 that were involved. Either way, it was a big deal.
Mhm.
It's a big deal. Okay. Anything else, Joe?
No, I think it does favor just it being three men, but at least how it's written.
3 men instead of 3 clans?
Yeah. Except only what the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men who went with me, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre. He listed the young men who went with him. Let them take their portion. They specifically identify them as singular people throughout this chapter. It just makes me think it is just 3 men. But I don't, like you said. 15.
Yep.
After these events, the word of Yahweh came to Abram in a vision, saying, "Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield. Your reward is exceedingly great." And Abram said, "Adonai, Yahweh, what would you give me, seeing I go childless, and the heir of my house is
Eliezer.
Eliezer of Damascus?" And Abram said, "See, you have given me no seed, and see, one born in my house is my heir." And see, the word of Yahweh came to him, saying, "This one is not your heir, but he who comes from your own body is your heir." And he brought him outside and said, Look now toward the Shamaim, and count the stars if you are able to count them. And he said to him, So are your seed. And he believed in Yahweh, and he reckoned it to him for righteousness. And he said to him, I am Yahweh, who brought you out of the Orkazdim to give you this land to inherit it. And he said, Adonai Yahweh, whereby do I know that I possess it? And he said to him, Bring me a 3-year-old heifer, and a 3-year-old female goat, and a 3-year-old ram, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he took all these to him, and cut them in the middle, and placed each half opposite the other. But he did not cut the birds. And the birds of prey came down on them, on the carcasses, and Abram drove them away. And it came to be, when the sun was going down, and a deep sleep fell upon Abram, that see, a frightening great darkness fell upon him. And he said to Abram, Know for certain that your seed are to be sojourners in the land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them for 400 years. But the nation whom they serve I am going to judge, and afterward let them come out with great possessions. Now as for you, you are to go to your fathers in peace. You are to be buried at a good old age. Then in the fourth generation they shall return here, for the wickedness of the Amorites is not yet complete. And it came to be, when the sun went down and it was dark, that see, a smoking oven and a burning torch passing between those pieces. On the same day Yahweh made a covenant with Abram, saying, I have given this land to your seed, from the river of Mitzrayim to the great river, the river Perith, with the Kenite and the Quinnizite and the Quadmonite and the Hittite and the Perizzite and the Rephaim and the Amorite and the Canaanite and the Girgashite and the Ubasite.
No, those are the promises, those are the covenants, the foundation of the entire covenant people.
There's so many references in the sacred scriptures about, and he believed Yahweh, and it was reckoned to him to righteousness. So he believed what Yahweh said, and because he believed it, he always did whatever he said. Whatever Yahweh said for him to do, he did it. And it was always saying he did it next morning, that afternoon. He never delayed in fulfilling what words Yahweh said for him to do.
In the extra writings, in Jubilees, if you ever want to read Jubilees, you will see all of this expounded. I mean, it will be, it'll just be filled in. And there are some other writings, there are 3 or 4 books, I believe, that are credited to Abram that were part of the Dead Sea Scroll writings. And so they have, authoritative, some authoritative backing for them. But he also references it's going to be 400. He prophesies the 400 years that they're going to be down in Mitzrayim before they come back into the land. Anybody else got anything?
I think so.
Well, that's it for our Genesis reading today. Time for Proverbs 25. I'm sorry, 24.
No, it's
Oh,
not
it is
good.
20. Okay. All right. All right. Joe, Terry, Haley, is this your day?
You,
No.
me, Joe.
I can't turn on the phone. What day is it?
25th.
Okay.
It's 19.
I'll do it. I'll do it. These 2 are proverbs of Shalomah, which the men of Hezekiah, sovereign of Yehuda, copied. It is the esteem of Elohim to hide a matter, and the esteem of sovereigns to search out a matter. The Shamim for height, and the earth for depth, but the heart of sovereigns is unsearchable. Take away the dross from silver, and a vessel comes forth for the refiner. Take away the wicked from before the sovereign, and his throne is established in righteousness. Do not exalt yourself before a sovereign, and do not stand in the place of great men. For it is better for him to say to you, come up here, than that you should be put lower before a noble whom your eyes have seen. Do not go forth to strive in haste, for what would you do in the end when your neighbor has put you to shame? Plead your case with your neighbor himself. Do not disclose the secret of another, lest he who hears it put you to shame, and your evil report turn not back. A word spoken at the right time is like apples of gold and mountains of silver. A ring of gold and an ornament of fine gold is a wise one's reproof to an ear that hears. Like the cold of snow in time of harvest is a trustworthy messenger to those who send him, for he refreshes the life of his masters. Clouds and wind without rain is he who boasts of his gifts falsely. Through patience a ruler is persuaded, and a soft tongue shatters a bone. Have you found honey? Eat only as much as you need, lest you be satisfied with it and vomit. Make your foot rare in your neighbor's house, lest he gets enough of you and hate you. A club and a sword and a sharp arrow is a man bearing false witness against his neighbor. A broken tooth or a foot out of joint is trust in a treacherous man in time of distress. One who takes away a garment in cold weather is vinegar on soda, and a singer of songs on an evil heart. If your enemy is hungry, give him bread to eat, and if he is thirsty, give him water to drink. If you are heaping coals of fire on his head, then Yahweh reward you. The north wind brings rain, and a secret tongue and enraged face. It is better to dwell in a corner of a roof than in a house shared with a contentious woman. Cold water to a parched throat is good news from a distant land. A muddied spring and a ruined fountain is a righteous man who gives way before the wicked. It is not good to eat much honey. Is it esteemed to seek one's own esteem? A broken down city without a wall is a man who has no control over his spirit.
All right.
I say a contentious spouse. I found in my experience that men can be every bit as contentious as women can be.
I don't know what you're talking about.
And I actually didn't mean that towards you. I just mean people. It should be really people.
Yeah. People. Yeah. Good sound wisdom. Vacation of life.
Also, like a broken down city without a wall is a person who has no control over his spirit. That's been meaningful to me throughout my life.
Which verse was that?
That's the last one, 28.
Okay.
The walls of a city were made to protect the inhabitants. And if I don't have control over my being, whether it be what I say, what I do, how I act, what I eat, whatever, I am leaving myself vulnerable for something bad to happen, for things to hurt me. So, actually, the one in James, it says, the wrath of man does not work the righteousness of Yahweh. So a hot-tempered person, which I have some, I can commiserate with, is one who has no, is like a man who has no control over his spirit is like a broken down city without a wall. So those of us who may or may not be able to control our temper, our whatever personality trait we have, we're putting ourselves in harm's way, really.
What about 7? That one confuses me.
For it is better for him to say to you, come up here, and that you should be put lower before a noble whom your eyes have seen.
Yeah.
There is a in Yahushua, when he was on the earth, he basically gave us a similar story. It's better for you to, when you come into a room, to not walk up and take the best seat of the house, only to have the owner of the house come and say, excuse me, we have somebody else that's going to sit in this seat, and then you go.
It's embarrassing.
You go to the back. Rather, it's better for you to walk in and take the lowly seat and let the owner of the house come and exalt you to the front. Let him take you to the front. You don't go claim the front only to be removed, because if you presume that you deserve that seat of honor, someone with more authority will come and remove you from that seat and give it to somebody who is more deserving of the honor. You, in humility, step back. Don't assume anything. Take the humble seat and let them moving forward is that, let's see, for it's better you come, for him to say to you, come up here. So that's taking someone from the back who has taken the humble seat and then is elevated by one with more authority, given a better seat of honor, than that you should be put lower before a noble, which is somebody sitting up front, only to have the one with authority
Presumption.
move them back. So really, this is a teaching of Yahushua when he was on the earth, and one of the teachings that he shared about.
Good.
You can. Anything else?
It was Lot.
Any questions you had, that'd be wonderful, because you ask good questions, but also there's just so much. If it's kind of newer to you, then things will stand out to you that just aren't standing out to us that ought to be discussed. So if you come up with any question at all, that's good. I guess Joe, you too. Anything else? No pressure or anything.
Well, I was looking at the movie.
Do you have anything?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, 26. A muddied spring and a ruined fountain is a righteous man who gives way
yeah,
before the wicked.
I did.
Wow.
That caught me, and
I did
and it
not
was
caught
pondering
that.
as we were trying to read. A righteous man, pure, clean water, but when it gives way and lets a wicked have their way in the midst, what happens? The water becomes defiled. So it's better for a righteous man to stand strong and not give way before wickedness, to keep the water pure and unmuddied. And I had also, it stopped me when, in verse 21, if your enemy is hungry, give him bread to eat, and if he's thirsty, give him water to drink. For you're heaping coals of fire on his head, and Yahweh rewards you. So it's hard. I mean, this is a teaching of the New Covenant writings as well, but it obviously comes from the Old Covenant writings, or the old writings. Using the wrong words, aren't it? The new writings and the old writings. But this is the concept, even though you would have cause to not treat your enemy well, the correct way to treat your enemy as well.
Let's pray for
the high
those.
road. You do what you need to do, irrespective of what the other person deserves or needs. You do what is honorable. You do what is good.
Pray for
And
those
you
who
let judgment. You let. Let's see. I was just reading. It was in Hebrews this morning. Where basically you let Yahweh. Justice is his. Taking vengeance is Yahweh's to take. And so you leave that to him. It's just not our job to do. Our job is to do what we're called to do, which is be good, do good, be righteous, do righteousness, as what we're talking about this morning. I mean, really, almost everything makes you want to, just line by line, you could just start breaking it apart. Okay, we're good. So Psalms, Psalm 34. So this is a good time to take a break. Or you want to do Psalm 34 before we go? I don't need a break. So,
We can do this. And then we'll do praise.
I'll let Haley read. Got it, Terry? Oh, I'm sorry. Are you getting ready to read?
No.
Yeah, she was.
No, he wasn't. Psalm of David. When he changed his behavior before Abimelech, who drove him away, and he departed. I Barak Yahweh at all times. His praise is continually in my mouth. My being shall boast in Yahweh. Let the humble hear and be glad. Oh, make Yahweh great with me, and let us exalt his name together. I sought Yahweh, and he answered me, and he delivered me from all my fears. They looked to him and were enlightened, and their faces were not ashamed. This poor one cried out, and Yahweh heard him and saved him out of all his distresses. The messenger of Yahweh encamps all around those who fear him and rescues them. O taste and see that Yahweh is good. Baruch, blessed is the man that takes refuge in him. Revere Yahweh, all you his Kodeshim, for there is no lack to them who revere him. Young lions have lacked and have been hungry, but those who seek Yahweh lack not any goodness. Come, you children, listen to me. Let me teach you the reverence of Yahweh. Who is the man who desires life, who loves many days in order to see good? Keep your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking deceit. Turn away from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it. The eyes of Yahweh are on the righteous, and his ears are open unto their cry. The face of Yahweh is against evildoers, to cut off their remembrance from the earth. Crying out, and Yahweh heard and delivered them out of all of their distresses. Yahweh is near the brokenhearted and saves those whose spirit is crushed. Yahweh is near to the brokenhearted and saves those whose spirit is crushed. Many are the evils of the righteous, but Yahweh delivers him out of them all. He's guarding all his bones, and not one of them is broken. Evil slays the wicked, and those who hate the righteous are guilty. Yahweh redeems the lives of his servants, and none of those taking refuge in him are guilty.
Terry and I spent a lot of time this morning talking and reading, and one of the things that the theme is we were talking about all the things that you can know, all the things that we're learning, all of the pieces of this puzzle that are coming into place for us to know the story and know the history of it all. But the constant theme throughout all of it, and what we were getting out of Esdras and getting out of Job and others, is, it's really not for us to know everything. I mean, we're to learn and keep seeking more, but there's only one thing we're called to do and be, and that's righteous. We are called to do right and be right. And that is the constant theme throughout Scripture, just like in verse 15, the eyes of Yahweh are on the righteous, and his ears unto their cry. Many are the evils of the righteous, but Yahweh delivers them out of them all.
Yahushua said that seek first the kingdom of Yahweh and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. And I heard it defined once, and I can't let it go, is what does righteous mean? It's Yahweh's ways of being and doing right. What does he think is right? How does he act? That's how our behavior is to emulate, to imitate. Kind of like it says, Paul had said, be imitators of Elohim as dear children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's part of the whole discussion these days about what the Torah is. The Torah, sure, we can call it the law, we can call it Torah Moshe, but what it really is it's a revealer of the ways Yahweh chooses to be. It's a revealer of his character, his way. So that's why it's really impossible to know how to be righteous if you do not know Torah. If you don't spend any time studying in the Torah, you will not know what are the righteous behaviors and what Yahweh values for behavior from us. But he clearly values right behavior according to his desire. highly, if not above everything. I'm just,
Well, it said in Second Esdras, chapter 13, the second part of verse 38, and he, Elohim, shall destroy those without works by the law, which is comparable to me, capital M. In other words, the law, the works of the law, which is what's right, what's righteousness, what is good, is he compares that to himself.
Yeah.
It's his ways of being and doing right. So the result of honoring his instructions is that is the picture of how he is.
how he operates and how he wants us to operate. Yeah. I mean, so much so that he's comparing the Torah to himself, basically almost saying we are one and the same, to which is almost like when, and actually we're getting ready to go there. In fact, we're getting ready to go there in a few minutes. You know, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. I mean, it is so, his word and his ways are so close to the essence of him that he identifies with it. You know, I mean, when we hear the word, he identifies so closely with it that he even says the word was Yahweh, or was.
Well, and then verse 14 in John, and the word became flesh. The word, his words, his instructions, his Torah became flesh and dwelt among us.
All right, anything else of 34? Joe?
I don't have anything.
52 now. Ideally, we're bouncing around in Psalm, just so you know, because we're doing it chronologically according to the Bible chronology. So ideally, these Psalms, as they were written by David, these early ones were written early in his life. And as we go through, the Psalms will reflect his maturity as he grows later in life. So that's why we're bouncing around. Okay.
Because they've listed it out of order, right? Out of chronological order.
Yeah, yeah. It's not just reading Psalms in order, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not going to be chronologically correct. I don't know why, but you know, I was just noticing, just like the 30, was it the 24th, 25th proverb. I was noticing it was a proverb of Shalom, but what did he say here? Yeah, which the men of Hizkiyahu, sovereign of Yehuda, copied. Well, if you know, Hizkiyahu is the he's, I think, did he follow or precede? I think he must have followed. I can't remember which king he followed, but he followed bad kings. And basically, by the time he came on, the temple had fallen into disarray, the law had been lost, and so when he came, when he came to power, when he became ruler over Israel or Yehuda, they discovered the law again, and he's the one that where they stood up and they read, and he began. So he reintroduced the Torah back into out there, you know, into the kingdom. And that's kind of what's happened here. This is so this proverb of Shelemah, which is Solomon, that that we have as the 25th proverb. Well, he did, you know, this is clearly they would have found these writings of Shelemah hundreds of years, hundreds and hundreds of years after he had it's got to be at least 300 or 400 years after his death, you know, so they're just not going to be necessarily in chronological order. And that's probably true of all of these Psalms of David as well. Okay. All right, 52.
Me?
52.
To the chief singer, a poem of David. When Doeg the Edomite came and told Shaul and said, David went to the house of Ahimelech. Why do you boast in evil, O mighty man? The Hasid of El is all day long. Your tongue devises destruction like a sharp razor, working deceit. You loved evil more than good, lying more than speaking righteousness. Selah. Pause and reflect. You loved all devouring words, O tongue of deceit. Let El also break you down forever, take you and pluck you out of your tent, and he shall uproot you from the land of the living. Selah. And let the righteous see and revere, and laugh at him. See the man who did not make Elohim his strength, but trusted in his many riches, being strong in his destruction. But I'm like a green olive tree in the house of Elohim. I've trusted in the Hasid of Elohim forever and ever. I thank you forever because you've done it. And in the presence of your kind ones, I wait on your name, for it is good.
So, it just a little for timing. This is as Shiloh, King Saul is pursuing David, and David went to Ahimelech, who was the high priest. And Ahimelech gave David and his men the bread, the showbread, which not the showbread that was being used in the service, but the showbread that had been removed and replaced with fresh showbread. So the showbread that they were removing because it was old is what he gave to David and his men. But Ahimelech was the high priest, and when Saul showed up, because he was pursuing and after David's life, when he showed up, he ended up killing Ahimelech. And it's Ahimelech's son who is the high priest, one of the two high priests, the opposite of
Zadok.
Zadok, thank you. I'm getting tired. I'm having a little trouble. So yeah, the other high priest, this was the son of Ahimelech here. So, okay. Anybody have anything?
Well, he said, verse 7, see the man who did not make Elohim his strength, but trusted in his many riches, being strong in his destruction. I think what I see in the scriptures a lot is it's not, he said he didn't curse them or say bad things about people for being wealthy. He said those who trust in them. You know, Abram had many riches and was very rich. It says very rich in silver, gold, and his herds, but he trusted in Yahweh. So he had riches, but his trust and his refuge was Yahweh. And the same with David, really.
Yeah.
David was very wealthy, but he trusted in Yahweh.
Good. Very good. All right. Well, I think it's time to take a break here, and back in 5 minutes or so. Go.
We're John in. John left.
Yep, we're going to John 1, and if we have time, we'll go to Matthew 1. But that would be a lot of reading. Let's see.
I need to read all my things there.
Yeah. Oh, what happened to my music?
The heavens declare your glory so bright. The stars reflect your endless light. Mountains bow down, oceans roar your name. Forever and always the same. Who can compare to your majesty? Your love reaches to eternity. There is none like you, oh Elohim Most High. Your power, your mercy fill the sky. Holy and faithful. There is none like you. In the darkest night, you're my guiding flame. Through every storm, I'll praise your name. Your hand upholds me, I will not fear. You are my refuge, you're always near. Your grace sustains, your love never ends. You're my redeemer, my closest friend. Ein kamocha, Elohim Elyon. Kodesh v'chesed maleh et hashamayim. Kadosh u'ne'eman, הבטחותיך אמת. לעולם נשיר, אין כמוך. You parted the seas, you calmed the waves, you broke the chains, you conquered the grave. Every knee will bow, every tongue confess, Yeshua, Messiah, your name is blessed. There is none like you, oh Elohim Most High. Your power, your mercy fill the sky. Holy and faithful, your promises are true. Forever we'll sing, there is none like you. No one before you, no one above. You reign in justice, you reign in love. For all of my days, my heart will pursue, singing forever. There is none like you. The heavens declare your glory so bright. The stars reflect your endless light. Mountains bow down, oceans roar your name. Forever and always the same. Who can compare to your majesty? Your love reaches to eternity. There is none like you, oh Elohim Most High. Your power, your mercy fill the sky. Holy and faithful, your promises are true. Forever we'll sing, there is none like you. In the darkest night, you're my guiding flame. Through every storm, I'll
I am.
praise.
I'll probably take it off in 10 minutes, though. That's what I usually do. Back and
Your
forth.
hand upholds me, I will not fear. You are
Yeah.
my refuge, you're always
Better
near.
get this, better
Your
be.
grace sustains,
We don't need to turn it up.
love never ends. You're my redeemer, my closest friend. Ein kamocha, Elohim Elyon. Kodesh v'chesed maleh et hashamayim. Kadosh v'ne'eman, הבטחותיך אמת. לעולם נשיר, אין כמוך. You parted the seas, you calmed the waves, you broke the chains, you conquered the grave. Every knee will bow, every tongue confess, Yeshua Messiah, your name is blessed. There is none like you, oh Elohim Most High. Your power, your mercy fill the sky. Holy and faithful, your promises are true. Forever we'll sing, there is none like you. No one before you, no one above. You reign in justice, you reign in love. For all of my days, my heart will pursue, singing forever. There is none like you.
All right, well, to the writings. All right, well, Gospel of John, chapter 1.
Haley, you're up.
Haley, you're up.
All right. No, I'm just kidding.
All right, one of you guys?
Me too, Joe? Anyone?
You.
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim. He was in the beginning with Elohim. All came to be through him, and without him, not even one came to be that came to be. In him was High, and the High was the light of men. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it.
High is life. It's just
In him was the life, the High.
life
And that
was
life, another description of that word life in the Greek is Zoe. It's the very essence of Elohim. What makes Elohim Elohim is High, is Zoe, life. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from Elohim whose name was Yohanan, John. This one came for a witness, to bear witness of the light, that all might believe through him. But he, Yohanan, was not that light, but that he might bear witness of that light. He was the true light, which enlightens every man coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world came to be through him, and the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own did not receive him. But as many as received him, to them he gave the authority to become children of Elohim, to those believing in his name, who were born not of blood, nor of the desire of flesh, nor of the desire of man, but born of Elohim. And the Word became flesh and pitched his tent among us. And we saw his esteem, his glory, his kabod as of an only brought forth of a father, complete in favor and truth. Yohanan bore witness of him and cried out, saying, "This was he of whom I said, He who comes after me has become before me, because he was before me. And out of his completeness we all received, and favor upon favor. For the Torah was given through Moshe, the favor and the truth came through Yahushua HaMashiach. No one has ever seen Yahuwah, the only brought forth Ben,
His son.
who is in the bosom of the Father, he declared. Now this was, the book of Hebrews will say he was the firstborn. Now this was the witness of Yohanan when Yehudim sent from Yerushalayim Kohanim, the priests from the Jerusalem priests.
And now this was the witness of Yana when the Yehudim sent from Yerushalayim, Kohanim priests and Levites to ask him, who are you? Yeah, so.
Okay, so I wasn't saying it right.
So the Yehudim sent priests and Levites to ask him, who are you? Yeah.
And he confessed and did not deny, but confessed, I am not Hamashiach. And they asked him, well, who are you then? Are you Elijah? So he said, I am not. Are you the Nabi, the prophet? No, he answered, no. He answered, no. Therefore, they said to him, who are you, so that we may give an answer to those who sent us? What do you say about yourself? He said, I am a voice of one crying in the wilderness. Make straight the way of Yahweh, as the Nabi Yeshayahu said. And those sent were of the Pharisees. And they asked him, saying, why then do you immerse if you are not the Hamashiach, nor Eliyahu, nor the Nabi?
Nabi is prophets, by the way.
Yohanan answered them, saying, I immerse in water, but in your midst stands one whom you do not know. The one coming after me, who has come before me, whose sandal strap I am not worthy to loosen. This took place in Bethabara, beyond the Yarden, where Yohanan was immersing. On the next day, Yohanan saw Yahushua coming toward him and said, see, the Lamb of Yahuwah who takes away the sin of the world. This is he of whom I said, after me comes a man who has come before me, for he was before me, and I did not know him, but that he might be revealed to Israel. Therefore, I came immersing in water. And Yohanan bore witness, saying, I have seen the Ruach coming down from the Shamayim like a dove and remain on him.
Ruach is spirit, by the way.
And I did not know him, but he who sent me to immerse in the water said to me, upon whom you see the Spirit, the Ruach, coming down and remaining on him, this is he who immerses in the Ruach HaKodesh. And I've seen and have witnessed that this is the Ben, the son of Yahuwah.
And in fact, Ruach HaKodesh is the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Ruach is spirit, HaKodesh is the Holy Spirit. Okay.
Again, the following day, Yohanan was standing with two of his Talmidim, two of his disciples, and looking at Yahushua walking, he said, see the Lamb of Yahuwah. And the two Talmidim heard him speaking, and they followed Yahushua. And the two Talmidim heard him speaking, and they followed Yahushua. He just lost two disciples.
Now you know better.
And Yahushua turning, seeing them following, said to them, what do you seek? And they said to him, Rabbi, which translated means teacher, where are you staying? And he said to them, come and see. They went and saw where he was staying and remained with him that day. Now it was about the 10th hour. Andre, the brother of Shimon, Kepha, Simon Peter, was one of the two who heard from Yohanan and followed him. First he found his own brother, Simon, and said to him, we have found Hamashiach,
Which is the Messiah.
which interpreted is the anointed. And he brought him to Yahushua. And looking at him, Yahushua said, you are Shimon, Peter, the son of Yonah. You shall be called Kepha, which is translated a stone.
But you are Shimon, which is Simon, son of Yonah. You shall be called Kepha, which is Peter.
On the following day, Yahushua wanted to go to Galilee, and he found Philippos and said to him, "Follow me." And Philippos was from Bethsaida, the city of Andre and Kepha. Philippos found Nathanael and said to him, "We have found him whom Moshe wrote in the Torah and of the Nevi'im, Yahushua of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." And Nathanael said to him, "Is it possible for any good to come out of Nazareth?" Philippos said to him, "Come and see." Yahushua saw Nathanael coming toward him and said of him, "See, truly a Israelite in whom there is no deceit." Nathanael said to him, "From where do you know me?" Yahushua answered and said to him, "Before Philippos called you, when you were under the fig tree, I saw you." Nathanael answered and said to him, "Rabbi, you are the son of Elohim, the Ben of Elohim, for you are the sovereign of Israel." Yahushua answered and said to him, "Because I said to you, I saw you under the fig tree, do you believe? Greater than that you shall see." And he said to him, "Truly, truly, I say to you, from now on you shall see the Shamayim opened, and the messengers of Elohim ascending and descending upon the Ben of Adam, the son of Adam."
Wow. Okay. You need to go through any of that? I mean, is everybody? So in the beginning was the Word, and throughout um, throughout the new writings, we will see the Word used over and over again. But we understand the Word to be basically the Scriptures. So I mean, I know in Christian circles we've always heard this, and we've always understood that when they said in the beginning was the Word, they're speaking of Yahushua. So Yahushua was the Word. Here they're coordinating him with the Word. And throughout all the writings, we're going to constantly see the Word referenced and the Word referencing the Scriptures. So would it be fair to say in the beginning where this was the Scriptures and the Word was with, and the Scriptures were with Elohim, and the Scriptures were, I don't know, but it's very interesting. But I do think that in various Christian teaching, because we have conflated Yahushua with the Word, sometimes then when we see the use of the Word throughout the new writings later, we just assume that it's referencing to Yahushua when in truth it's referencing Scriptures. So it becomes necessary to parse that out as you go through the new writings. And the new writings, just in case you're not familiar, I mean, you're going to see in your Bibles, you're going to see Old Covenant and New Covenant, Old Testament, New Testament. We're calling them old writings and new writings.
Well, concerning the word, the word, Bible Hub, the context is Jewish context or logos was associated with divine wisdom. So whatever Yahweh said is considered wisdom. And the fear of Yahweh is the beginning of wisdom. And in the chapters of Proverbs, it's screaming out. Wisdom is screaming out into the streets. Come, listen to me. Get understanding from me. Get knowledge from me. I don't think it is a stretch in any way, shape, or form to say that word is the Scriptures, because Yahushua is the embodiment of,
which we just read in Ezra.
Exactly. And that it says in Hebrews 1:3 that Yahushua was the exact representation of the glory of the kabod of Elohim, the exact representation. And so no, I think to me it means the same thing. Yeah, in the beginning was the instructions, the words that Elohim spoke, and the word was with Elohim, and then those words manifested in a flesh being who was the exact representation of Elohim.
And I think when in verse 4, when it says, in him was high, or in him was life, in him was eternal life before he laid it down and came here. So he had eternal life. In him was life, and that life was the light of men. So it is the guidance of men. This is Yahushua in his heavenly state was the light of men, but then light shone in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. So then goes on to say that the light comes into the world, which is the coming of Yahushua in the laying down of his high that he had to take on, to take on man, take on flesh, to take on the job of saving the world. So
Well, also there's scriptures that say where Yahushua said, I only speak what the Father tells me to say. I only do what I see him doing, and I only say what I hear him saying to me. And so he was the perfect manifestation of Yahweh, because he fulfilled the requirements that Yahweh sent him to fulfill, and he only said and did what Yahweh said and did.
well, I don't need to over explain unless somebody's got questions. I mean, everybody has to read this, and this is the passage people read over and over and over again. Do you guys have anything that you want to share or ask or talk about, anything that makes you look at it and go, what? There's one. No?
I have just one more thing. So verse 17, for the Torah was given through Moshe, and the favor and the truth came through Yahushua HaMashiach. It in many translations, it looks like instructions given through Moses, and then thank you.
Or the
Yeah,
law was
yeah,
given
yeah.
through
The law was given through Moshe,
mercy
and
and
thank
grace.
you, Yahweh, that then Messiah came.
grace.
But it's the word for truth. The word for truth in Greek is what's reality. It is from long ago. The Greeks considered the truth is what is reality. So it's what's void of illusion, what's void of delusion, what's void of deception. It is what reality is. And so Moshe, Yahweh gave the law through Moshe, but then Yahushua came and was the manifestation of said law. It didn't merely flow through Yahushua; he was the embodiment of it, and that favor for the favor of being saved and delivered by belief, by being justified, not by keeping Torah, but by the blood. Only the blood can justify. But we know that Yahushua kept the Torah and kept it. But I don't separate them anymore. I used to struggle because a lot of modern translations separated them for me, and I had to fight through it.
Just in some of the studies I've been doing with Paul, there's a teaching that we're all born into flesh. Since Adam, what was once an eternal being has now become a mortal being, born of flesh. We're all born of flesh. Well, as Paul will teach, the Torah is given through Moshe. The Torah comes through Moshe, through the vehicle of Moshe. Moshe was the mediator of the Torah, which is really the instructions of Yahweh that came down. But the Torah, while it is wonderfully perfect and good and perfect, it still becomes a vehicle of death for us. Why? Because as it comes down, it just shows that we're just falling so short of Yahweh and his ways. So even though the Torah is wonderful and perfect, it is the vehicle of our death, because the penalty of sin is death. Well, a lot of the modern translations, they're quick to say that the law was given through Moshe, but grace and truth came through Mashiach, which was this idea that the law has been replaced with this idea of it's gone. The law is the problem. Since the law, man can't keep the law, we need to get rid of the law and quit trying to live by law. But that's not what is being taught. What they're really saying is that the Torah was given through Moshe, which reveals how Yahweh expects us to act, and that does not change. What Yahushua did, what the Mashiach did, is he came and he earned us the favor of Yahweh, the salvation, the forgiveness of the failures of Torah. And he also ushers in that favor of Yahweh is not just forgiveness of the sins, but it is eradication of the flesh and the impediment for us to walk in Torah. So Torah is not going to be gotten rid of. And that's not what Yahushua did when he came through favor and truth. What he gave us through his favor and truth was forgiveness for the past failures, but also the future ability to walk in perfect Torah, according to Torah. Is it clear as mud?
Um,
So the favor and the truth that comes through Mashiach is not the eradication of sin. It is the eradication of the penalty of sin. And it is then the ability, because it's the resurrection life, and that resurrection life that is going to allow us to walk in that new covenant and in perfect obedience, where he is our Elohim and we are his children.
Another way of saying at least a bit of that is right now we're in a mortal body, and mortal just means subject to decay. It's diseased. It's meaning, well, here, let me read this from Second Esdras. For the first Adam, bearing a wicked heart, transgressed and was overcome. So all those who are descended from him, thus sickness was made permanent. So Adam, death, sin came into Adam because he transgressed the law, transgressed the word of Yahweh, and then death by sin. So sin entered Adam, and then because sin entered, death. You can't separate the two. So once the sin came into the world, then sickness, disease, all of that in Adam. There's no remedy for what state Adam is in until Messiah takes care of it. And it says the disease was made permanent, and the law was in the heart of the people with an evil root. Paul said the law was perfect, and we established the law. The evil root is not the law. That was what they're saying is good, and Paul said was good. And many other writers say the law is good. Psalm 119, that's all I can say about it. It's good. But the heart of man, the heart of Adam, because of the fall of Adam, has an evil, diseased state, heart. Can't be fixed without the remedy of Yahushua, without Jesus. And so, and it says,
It's going to require an entire remake.
Right. So that the good departed, the law, and the evil stayed. The permanent root of disease could not be eradicated until Messiah comes and takes care of it. He suffered the consequences for us on our behalf. He was raised from the dead, and that promise is for us. And it says in 2 Corinthians 4:3-4, that immortality, our being mortal, is going to be swallowed up with immortality. So what is subject to decay, what is the diseased state we are in right now of mortal man, is then going to be swallowed up with immortality on that day when we're resurrected. We will know, so we'll be immortal, no longer in this diseased state. So it's not going to be any problem to be coexisting with that law that is good. So that sounds.
I think so. Good.
Keep going, but I think you wanted to go to Matthew or anything else in here that we,
Next up, if we're done with John.
except for Joe's name, his middle name was after Nathaniel. This Nathaniel. And he's the son of Joseph. So both his names are in verse 45. In fact,
All right, this one's going to be brutal. You want me to do it?
yes. Yeah.
I can't do it better, but I'll take the brunt of all the words. Unless you just want to. No, I won't need to. Matthew.
I don't want to try you, Jack.
Maybe.
I'm going to take his own.
23rd.
Go ahead.
Really?
All right, you ready? The book of genealogy of Yahushua HaMashiach, ben of David, ben of Abraham. Abraham brought forth Yitzchak, and Yitzchak brought forth Jacob, and Jacob brought forth Yehuda and his brothers. I'll just quickly say Yitzchak is Isaac, Jacob is Jacob, for those who are not familiar. And Yehuda, which is Judah. Yehuda brought forth Peretz and Zerah by Tamar, and Peretz brought forth Hetzron, and Hetzron brought forth Ram, and Ram brought forth Abinadab, and Aminadab brought forth Nashon, and Nashon brought forth Salmon, and Salmon brought forth Boaz by Rahab, which is our hero of the story of Ruth.
Sure is.
And Boaz brought forth Obed by Ruth, and Obed brought forth Yishai, which is Jesse, and Yishai brought forth David the sovereign, and David the sovereign brought forth Shelomah by Uriah's wife. So David brought forth Solomon by Uriah's wife. And Shelomah brought forth Rehoboam, which we would know as Rehoboam. So Shelomah brought forth Rehoboam, and Rehoboam brought forth Abiah, and Abiah brought forth Asa, and Asa brought forth Jehoshaphat, and Jehoshaphat brought forth Joram, and Joram brought forth Uzziah. Let me just also say that from David forward, we're listening to kings here. These are the kings that you would read in First Chronicles and First Kings. So you got Rehoboam, and then you got Abiah, and then you got Abiah brought forth Asa, and Asa brought forth Jehoshaphat, and Jehoshaphat brought forth Joram, and Joram brought forth Uzziah. Uzziah brought forth Jotham, and Jotham brought forth Ahaz, and Ahaz brought forth Hezekiah, Hizkiyahu, I'm sorry. And this is the one that found the scrolls and brought forth that Proverb 25 from Shiloh. This is Hizkiyahu. And
Well, I'm not following.
What do you mean?
That's what you said the last couple sentences. I don't know what you were saying.
Okay.
You added it in and I wasn't
All
following.
right. So were you here when we went back to Proverb 25 and it says this is a proverb of Shiloh
Oh, okay.
as it
Okay.
was transcribed by the people of
Okay.
Hizkiyahu. So all of the Torah had been lost. The word had been lost by the time from the days of
Hezekiah.
David through Shiloh, then Abiah, then Asa, Jehoshaphat, throughout those times as the kings failed to do their job and as the priests failed to do their job to keep Torah in the forefront, Torah disappeared and it became lost. So that by the time Hizkiyahu came on, it had been completely lost. A priest, when they were doing some renovation work on the temple, the high priest found these scrolls, and it's shocking that I guess 300 or 400 years had gone by, so it could happen. But they're all shocked. Look at these scrolls, and it's the Torah, and he brings them out,
Yep.
and they're reading it, and
Okay.
Hizkiyahu is rent. The king is rent, and just oh my gosh. And then he went forth trying to make all of the changes all throughout Yehuda or Judah in those days. And while he was 100% for it, the people weren't. That's why we had not, he was a good king and he did lead some forth and back to the Torah, but most of the people had already turned their hearts away from Yahweh. And following Hizkiyahu here in verse 10 was Manasseh, and that's what I was trying to think of earlier. Well, Hizkiyahu who was considered a very good king, but he's fallen by Manasseh, who was considered, if not the worst, one of the worst kings. Because
Horrific.
immediately after his Keyahu, Manasseh starts bringing in all of the idols to the temple itself and begins sacrificing children. And it's just really, he goes all bad.
It's very dark.
And then he's followed by Ammon, and Ammon was also bad. But Ammon brought forth Yoshiyahu, who was now what we would know in most of our translations as Josiah, who was also considered a very good king, did much reform, bringing the people back to Yahuwah and the Torah. But then he's followed by Yekaniah, which is Jeconiah. And we went just back in the other direction. And Yoshiyahu, just for timing here, Yoshiyahu was the last good king, and it was he who went up during his time. We've got the rise of Babylon, and we've got the rise of Egypt from the south, and Egypt came up to do battle with Babylon. And Babylon, by the way, had already conquered Assyria by this time. Nebuchadnezzar had conquered Assyria. So now Babylon is the power in the north. Egypt is the power in the south. Egypt came up to do battle with Babylon. And Yoshiyahu, for whatever reason, to my knowledge, I have yet to find how it's explained, but Yoshiyahu went up to fight against Egypt. What? On behalf of Babylon? I don't really know. But when he went up to fight, where the land, that area to the north of Yehuda, that's where he got shot and came back into Jerusalem and died. So, and then immediately he's followed by Yekaniah, which is Jeconiah. And immediately upon Yoshiyahu's death in the beginning in Yekaniah, this is when Babylon came down. And you can't say they took the land Yehuda yet or conquered it, but basically he turned Yekaniah into a vassal, meaning that Yekaniah did whatever he was told to do by Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. And it was in the beginning of Yekaniah here that Daniel and that group went off to Babylon. So when you see Daniel referring to his exile, it took place here at the beginning of Yekaniah's rulership. And then Yekaniah, after about 3 years, rebelled against Babylon. And so we had I think it was about a 7 or 8 year period of time where Nebuchadnezzar did not come down to completely conquer Yehuda at that time, but he sent raiding parties. And there was just a lot of unrest during Yekaniah's time. But this was all about the time that the Babylonian captivity is getting ready to happen. And then here we start. And after the exile to Babel, Yekaniah brought forth Shealtiel, and Shealtiel brought forth Zerubbabel. Yekaniah.
I'm not, who's Yekaniah? Jeconiah? Jeconiah. Yeah, that's okay. I was trying to figure in my mind who that was.
Yeah, and I'd have to pull it all back out to make sure that I'm telling you exactly what happened. But it's also during, you see, they're not really talking about, let me go make sure that I'm telling you correctly here. Zadok and Zadok. Yeah, they're not really saying it here, but then we had the son of, I think it was the son of Yekaniah that came on the scene, but immediately within 3 months, what do you call it? What do you call it when you give up to surrender to Nebuchadnezzar after 3 months? And he took this is the main one that you would see where the majority of the people, like 10,000 people, went off to Babylon. So we had a first exile that involved Daniel and his people while Yekaniah was still sovereign of the land. Yekaniah dies, his son comes on, and I can't think of his name. I'd have to go, I've done this work and I'd have to go find it, but he's the one that gives up. And then in his place, Nebuchadnezzar puts forth, what's the king, Zedekiah? Are you completely lost?
Well, it's just, I think we're going in.
Yeah. I'm sorry. We'll stop. But just to give you an idea of where we're at in the timeline here. Okay, and after the exile to Babel, Yekaniah brought forth Shealtiel, and Shealtiel brought forth Zerubbabel, and Zerubbabel brought forth Abihad, and Abihad brought forth Eliakim, and Eliakim brought forth Azar, and Azar brought forth Zadok, and Zadok brought forth Achim, and Achim brought forth Elihud, and Elihud brought forth Eleazar, and Eleazar brought forth Matan, and Matan brought forth Jacob, and Jacob brought forth Joseph, the husband of Miriam, of whom was born Yahushua, who is called Mashiach. So all the generations from Abraham to David were 14 generations, and from David until the exile to Babylon were 14 generations, and from the exile to, to Babel until Mashiach were 14 generations. And the birth of Yahushua HaMashiach was as follows. After his mother Miriam was engaged to Joseph, before they came together, she was found to be pregnant from the Ruach HaKodesh. And Joseph, her husband, being righteous and not wanting to make a show of her, had in mind to put her away secretly. But while he thought about this, see, a messenger of Yahweh came to him in a dream, saying, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Miriam as your wife, for that which is in her was brought forth from the Ruach HaKodesh. And she shall give birth to a Ben, and you shall call his name Yahushua, for he shall save his people from their sins. And all this came to be in order to fill what was spoken of by Yahweh through the Nabi, saying, see, a maiden shall conceive, and she shall give birth to a Ben, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which translated means El with us. And Joseph, awaking from his sleep, did as the messenger of Yahweh commanded him, and took his wife, but knew her not until she gave birth to her Ben, the firstborn, and he called his name Yahushua. I just can't help but get carried away.
So dude, doesn't make sense to me that Yahushua has lineage from David, since Joseph did not impregnate Miriam. What's Miriam's lineage?
Also at the house of David. In
Luke?
It's Luke. In Luke, we get the other lineage, her lineage.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of time we could spend on these lineages because they're just things to go over, especially when you get to Luke's. Anything else? All right, so we covered a lot of reading today. So we're going to finish up here.
Section where enter the birth of Yahushua, just one of my favorite accounts. I love hearing this account from, verse 18 to 25. And then Luke gives a good account.
Well, Yahweh may you barak and guard us. Yahweh may you make your face shine upon us and show us favor. Yahweh may you lift up your face upon us and grant us shalom. Amen. Okay. We'll see you all next time.